Hi, Larry Hale here, and I felt like the Lord wanted me to do a short video on the subject of only God can judge me, because there is a prevalent mindset in the world today, and even some among God's people have this school of thought, and you'll see it on t-shirts, only God can judge me, and things like that. And I just want to explain in short order how ridiculous that is. It's a total fairy tale. If only God can judge us, then we have to throw the Old Testament out, because God gave His law to Moses for Israel, and it had a moral code of conduct and commandments that God expected and required the people to live by. And there were people ordained, priests, elders, Levites, judges, and people who judged the people for breaking those moral commandments. And there was a code of penalties. There was varying penalties and judgments given in that law by God for the people to be carried out among themselves. And like I said, there were people ordained of God to carry out those varying penalties and judgments for breaking the commandments of the Lord. Now, if we have to throw the Old Testament out, which we certainly would under the premise that only God can judge us, then we have to throw the New Testament out too, because the New Testament does not exist without the Old Testament. It is in fact the fulfillment of the Old Testament that Jesus fulfilled for us. And in the New Testament, the apostles ordained elders and bishops and leaders among the people in the congregations of the Lord and in their jurisdiction to establish order and to judge among their brethren. In fact, the Apostle Paul scolded the congregation at Corinth because they hadn't judged. In one place, in 1 Corinthians 6, he said, "Dare any of you go to law before the unbelievers against one another?" He says, "There's not one wise man among you that can judge among his brethren." But in the chapter before that, 1 Corinthians 5, he really scolded them for not judging a man who was committing fornication knowingly. They knew what was going on, and they allowed the man to continue in the worship, in the congregation, with the saints. And the Apostle Paul told them that they had all, in effect, become accountable for this man's sin. That's what he meant when he said that a little leaven leavens the whole lump. And he told them that their worship was no good, because they were allowing sin among them, and that's not like God. So he told them they should have judged this man. And so he judged the man himself and put him out from the company of the saints until he repented. That's just an example, but that's the way that the New Testament order of things is supposed to operate. And so we would have to, if only God can judge us, then we would have to throw out secular government, law enforcement, courts, judges. We couldn't penalize crime. To wait for God to do everything and for us to not have any system among ourselves is totally ungodly, in fact. So nothing like only God can judge me has ever existed in the history of the world or in the history of existence. God gave the world to man, and He gave man the responsibility to judge among men in order to keep order in the world. So that's just a little bit on the topic. I could say a lot more, but hopefully that's enough to kind of get your mind thinking in the right direction, because a lot of these things we see and they're so commonplace, and it can fuzzy your mind up sometimes, but there's reality and truth, and there is the Word of God. So hopefully that's a blessing to you and a help. If you think it'd be a blessing or help to somebody else, then by all means share it. If we're not friends on Facebook, send me a request. I'd be glad to be friends with you. And God bless you, and I'll be back to give you some more good stuff on another video soon. God bless.